Now time to look at the newspapers. But earlier you heard Peace Square. We're celebrating them on Hall of Fame. But the song says, you do me, I do you, man no go vex. And a lot of people believe that's what is actually happening on our political landscape. You do me, I do you. But that's actually not healthy. Maybe you can send us your thoughts on that as well, how that is deteriorating, how that's, hampering our democracy and the like. All right. To the papers now, and Daily Graphic's biggest story says that 7 parties meet EC deadline. NDC, NPP, others default in presenting audited accounts. And that's the story that we will be looking at this morning. Also, in the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper says that Cocoa Board blows millions. Cocoa Board blows millions. The Ghanaian Times newspaper says Atuguba blasts lawyers over ethical breaches. Atuguba blasts lawyers over ethical breaches. And the final, coffee sector at crossroads, is a story carried by BNFT. And a story that we would probably, if we have time, we'll look at is on the front page of the Daily Express says that GIPC registered about 40 projects in first quarter of 2016. Let me quickly introduce my guest for the morning. My extreme right, we have Nana Fredria Ajiman Pambo. He's Executive Director, Investpro Limited. Nana, good morning and good to have you on the show. We really missed you, so yes, good to have you here. Thank you. Thank you. And also next to him, we have Dr. Mahmoud Abdullahi Mahmoud. Doctor, good morning. Good morning. He is a senior lecturer at University of Ghana Business School. Welcome to the show as well. Thank you. And then we have Professor Cletus Dodonu. He's a policy analyst and chairman of Clay Dodd Enterprise. Prof, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
All right, so quickly, I would want to get your thoughts and then probably we'll look at the rationale behind this whole 7 parties are able to meet the deadline set by the Electoral Commission to present an audited account. And we're told that from the records that since 2012, they haven't done so. Let me pick your initial thoughts on this attitude and what the EC intends to do now enforcing the law. Nana.
Well, first and foremost, good morning to your cherished viewers who I have missed so much.
I know.
I believe that there's a law that compels these political parties to file their returns by a stipulated date. Naturally, every law also comes with repercussions. And it is instructive to note that this law is also enshrined within our Constitution.
Sure.
So I don't think this is an issue for deliberation or discussion on the part of the EC.
Sure.
The EC has a mandate, and again, the perception of the EC comes into question.
Okay.
If you have a mandate, the law has been breached, there are repercussions. You do not hold dialogue or go into discussion. You apply the repercussions that are tantamount to the neglect of paying attention or filing the taxes within the stipulated time. So I still await the EC's follow-up with regards to the sanctions that the law allows her to implement in a situation like this. What is instructive to note is that it is the 2 biggest political parties, the NPP and the NDC, who are culprits in this. And I would find it very interesting if the EC is able to apply the sanctions. For me, really, it's not an issue for dialogue. It is, again, Ghana's constitution, Ghana's democracy at stake. And again, the EC is being asked to apply what she has been mandated by law to do.
All right. Dr. Abdullahi Mahmoud, for you as well, he mentioned them rightly that the NDC, NPP, we're told the CPP actually presented theirs yesterday and the PNC. But if the smaller parties like the NDP, DFP, GFP, I'm told have all submitted their audited report. So Nana, rightly stated that he wants to see how the EC will be able to apply a law against the biggest political party. Do you see the same?
Good morning.
Sure.
Good morning to your cherished viewers. I think this comes under the bigger picture of political party funding. I believe, yes, the law is the law. We don't have the law for the big fishes and the law for the smaller fishes. Law is law, and whoever goes against the law should be dealt with.
Okay.
But then the challenge we have in this country, as I said, is the funding part. Whether political parties are being funded, that is not, I believe, is something that we need to still look at. I believe it's still something that is being discussed. But let me also say that if the parties, we know that we have two major parties in these countries, that is the MPP and the NDC.
Sure.
How come the smaller parties are able to file their returns?
Maybe they cannot account for things that are in their account. That's why.
And probably,
slowing
what
up.
is the size of the account? You see, if you have something big, it means that preparing the account may take a while. So for me, yes, every party needs to adhere to. If the smaller parties are able to meet the deadlines, then the bigger parties must also be able to do same.
Okay.
But the issue we also need to also consider is that, you see, we cannot just lump them together. They are of different sizes. And even in Ghana, for instance.
But the law does not know size.
Yeah, I know. The law doesn't talk about size. And sometimes, as I said, EC itself is not, I mean, why are they going into dialogue? That is my problem now. Why do they want to? It means that there is something fundamentally wrong in terms of political party funding in this country. Because, you know, if I fund you, I may demand what? Accountability from you.
Sure.
But how do the parties source their funding?
Okay.
We don't know. You understand? I know recently the majority leader had a lengthy discussion on funding and had a view that political parties must be funded in this country. So, for me, I'm not holding brief for the bigger parties not meeting the deadline of EC in filing their returns. I'm not holding brief for them.
Sure.
But what are the challenges? We need to understand what are the challenges that they are not able. If we don't get this, I know the laws are there, but laws are meant for interpretation. Okay? So if you don't put the right conditions in place, it may be a challenge, and probably which the EC themselves is aware, and that is why they are not enforcing the law that we all know.
Okay. Prof, let me just put you in this position and ask you, what do you think could be the reason why the major political parties have failed to account, to submit audited reports? Let me just put you in that spot a bit.
Good morning,
Sure.
our listeners and viewers. I think Doc made it very clear that there should be no dialogue when rules are broken. Too many rules are broken in Ghana. When you see the paper, conformity to the rules is about 30%. Breaking the rules, criminal conduct, negligence, they constitute over 70%, which means that we prefer breaking rules than obeying rules. This is our Ghana for us. So why should the two parties, which are the parties of Ghana, and there is no doubt about that, MPP, NDC, why should they also be those who flout the law? I don't know the specifics of the law, but audited account is supposed to help us. You know, we always say we have transparency, but we should go beyond transparency to accountability, where you are held responsible for what has been transparent. It is very transparent now, NDC, MPP, among others, small fishes there and here and there. But why should it be room for dialogue? Maybe it's because they do a lot of things, and to put accounts together has taken a longer time. They should have written a love letter to EC to beg for extension. It could also be that they have something to hide.
Okay.
In fact, honestly, I haven't read the law recently, and if it has changed, I don't know. But every year, all political parties must submit their audited accounts to EC. It's part of the process. So it would be very beautiful to find reasons why they have broken it from them, so that we can extend the dialogue, the discussion, and critique from there.
All right, but
I just want to add something to what
go ahead.
the professor said. Prof, these political parties were notified as at April 2015, that is last year, that the deadline for submission was the day before yesterday.
Yes.
Clearly.
May 31. Okay.
As at the end of April last year. You have multinational companies, Colgate-Palmolive, Unilever, with presence in over 100 countries, with a staff population expenditures in excess of $40 billion a year. And all of these companies filed their taxes within the deadline mandated by the United States of America. None of them would dare file a day past because of the sanctions that would be applied. And as you rightfully said, we have a 30% compliance stake and a 70% in compliance state.
Okay.
And that is a result of the fact that people know that they will always get away, and they always do get away. And that is why at this very crucial state, instead of the EC applying sanctions according to the law that has mandated its institution, is now engaging in dialogue.
Okay.
Classic example.
Okay. No, actually, I think you pretty much said what I was going to ask a question about, whether we're treating them with kid's glove. And also the smaller parties have actually accused the Election Commission of not being fair to them by insisting that they have two-thirds districts, offices in two-thirds of the district. And non-compliance means that we'll probably take away your certificate. And I remember the NDP was very vocal in saying that it's a threat to our democracy. How do you think they will take it? Because they have filed and the bigger parties haven't.
The NDP was disqualified for reasons that we are yet to know the full light of. Now, wouldn't it have been instructive at the time that the NDP, when they filed, that is leading into the 2012 elections, certain types of dialogue, as the EC is now engaging the bigger political parties to clarify whatever inconsistency there was in the application, to ensure that a person of the stature of Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, who has founded a political party, should be given the fair play, the fair grounds to compete in a very healthy, democratic environment. She was not given that privilege. However, the deadline has come in. Both the NPP and the NDC have not filed. And this is also part of the larger picture. If the NPP wants to govern, and they believe they have the men, and even within their own backyard, they cannot file their accounts, how do they intend to rule Ghana, submit budgets, have it approved by Parliament, and govern effectively? This is perhaps an indictment on the NPP, who is making so much noise about accountability, about better governance, and hoping to come to power. To talk about the NDC will even be regrettable. Our economy, our state is what it is, and the NDC, by not filing or being able to file with all the resources that they have, also shows the, and I don't want to use the I word, but it shows the inability or the state of even the NDC's own internal mechanisms. For me, it goes back to our democracy. Our democracy is really being put to a test by these two huge political parties who consistently fail us in delivery. There's no excuse for this.
All right. Doc, same for you?
Yeah, well, as I said, for me, responsibility and authority need to be balanced.
Okay.
So probably this is where we are missing.
Okay.
EC has a responsibility, they also have an authority, and they need to balance these two so that they can get these two parties to comply with. Let me also quickly add that, you know, the private sector operations, especially in our part of the world, where we are now even talking of public-private partnership. the PPP. You see, we have a serious challenge when it comes to the public sector. Nana made mention of the multinationals with their huge
Staff,
layout,
balance
staff,
sheet.
and yet they are able to comply. And what is happening in the public sector? For the multinationals, you got to, you know, they've given you the necessary authority, you've been given the necessary resources, and you have to account for. And for me, my challenge probably is, how is the political parties in Ghana being funded? Okay. As I said, it's the fundamental thing that we really need to talk about, and that is cause. But then I also agree that yes, deadlines have been set, the parties are aware of it, and yet they did not respond. What happened? What was the reminders?
Yeah.
Okay, before we will get to this stage. And mind you, when you talk of these party issues in Ghana, we are very sensitive, and we want to have a stable country. And sometimes, as I said, the laws are there for the interpretation. We have to interpret the laws. We can't just apply laws anyhow.
Okay.
So I believe we need stability.
Yeah, but Doc, if the wrong thing has been done, I mean, this is a new electoral commissioner we have, and she's trying to bring a certain, let me use the word, you know, discipline into the system where people go by the laws. So we can't fault her completely.
Yeah, I agree with
the fact
yes,
allowed
new
them to do it in
leadership. Yes, new leadership will call for. So she has to put her feet down and ensure that the right things are done. As Prof said, we don't really have the full facts. We are not within the parties to know why they couldn't comply. You get it? So if you are going to discuss this, probably it's just speculations that we may be doing here. Okay. We really need to know why they couldn't meet those deadlines. Okay. Yes, as Prof, it could be positive or it could be what? Negative reasons why they are not responding.
Okay. Prof, your final comment before we move on to another subject, you know, about the impact of this, you know, on the smaller political parties who feel they are not being treated fairly because they don't have offices in 2/3 of districts in the country, and yet have gone ahead and filed, and these ones haven't done it, and their certificate, they still have their certificate and will contest the elections.
Maybe the first thing I would say is it's a bit too early now to know what EC would do to the big parties. Okay. But I felt very disturbed that these big parties who have been given the nod, they still maintain their certificate. And there are difficulties. But the smaller parties who had problems, they have been able to submit theirs. They are the very ones who were having problems earlier. So are we picking and choosing? Are we applying the law differently?
Yeah.
Now, the issue of funding of political parties, I don't know how the linkage between non-compliance of the laws and the funding tie in this, I will call it heinous behavior of NDC and NPP.
Yeah.
Well, there are pros and cons of funding. They are there. One of the pros is that it can help nurture political parties, especially the small ones. And one of the cons is that, well, then you are going to have plenty of political parties. Technically, there are issues in the funding of parties. But personally, and from my experience, what I have realized is that if you are truly a political party, membership contributions are the major source.
Sure.
They are not only contributing some bit of the corn flour, they are also interested in the pudding. So they participate. But when you have political parties being funded by some 1 or 2 big donors, then it becomes a serious political investment. It's like capital budgeting. When the facility comes on board, I will be earning my returns per annum. I don't think it's fair. So the test for our political parties are many. In fact, the questions are very, very many. Do they even organize the 2/3 minimum of the districts such that people are there, they contribute. Do they have what we normally call, what is it called? The ID.
Okay.
When you register in a party, you have ID.
Yeah, they have. They issue IDs.
Well, I don't know about that. That's why some districts, they have now developed their own, some constituencies, they have their own type of IDs. So maybe they are very busy about many other things and they didn't think submission of their...
Or they didn't think that they would hold them to it. They thought that it's also business as usual. Oh, they will talk and we'll go through it.
But that is the greatest problem we have, especially with the ruling party. The ruling party, that is the greatest problem we have. You fight for a political seat, you get the seat, you don't know how to use the seat. You know, I can't fathom a reason acceptable to Ghanaians that will be advanced by NDC that they have not prepared their accounts to be audited.
Okay.
And I think you're also making a point that the smaller parties are complaining they don't have 2/3 offices across the district.
Yes.
So that serves as a disadvantage for them in terms of when it comes to not meeting the deadline. Because if the bigger parties have all the districts across, it means that it will take a longer while for them to prepare accounts.
But I mean, but it still comes back to the point Nana makes that even with the multinational company, they're able to do it to meet the deadline. So there is really no excuse for it if you know you will be punished for it, if the measures or the sanctions will be applied.
You see, multinational operations, they have the necessary infrastructure that they can capture in terms of IT usage.
Yes, Doc.
You get it. I mean,
but Doc, it's still an excuse, honestly. Doc.
Well, I'm not, I'm not on their side.
Sure. No, I get
when it comes to multinational, they will tell you that anybody who works with multinational will tell you that the kind of training that you will get, what they expect from you, they don't really play with their work. So if you really want to compare our parties to the multinational, I think we will be in big trouble.
So are you trying to say that then we play with our country?
No, not.
We shouldn't.
Not. The thing is that we are not up there yet. Do you get it? Sometimes we are not up there.
If you're a little child, you are in Ghana, and you are a little child, you are in America, and then there is fire on the ground, and you want to claim ignorance, does it mean that when the Ghana child puts the leg on it, it won't burn?
Sure, it will surely burn.
We have some universal laws. Let's obey the rules.
But you see, country specifics, and the issue is that technology, we know technology, the level of technology.
But what Doc is trying to do here, but if you file VAT returns a day after the deadline in Ghana, you pay a penalty.
You pay a penalty for that. Okay, so I think I side with you.
It's not about technology.
I agree with you.
Absolutely.
So we need to make sure that
it is just the fact that, and most importantly for the NDC, for a government of the day, with all the resources that it has, and the fact that it's the executive which is ruling and appointed the EC, and for such an important event as in declaring your audited accounts, which you've been told a whole year, April 15th.
I agree with you.
So it is not about technology. It's just about gross disrespect for the law, and we might as well abolish the Constitution.
But can you imagine actually going to the polls and not having the NDC and the NPP on the ballot?
That's what Ghana needs.
That's actually, I think so. So the EC should apply the
Ghana. That is really what we need to really get into the position where it is about Ghana, but it's not about individuals who think they are bigger than God, who must rule Ghana at all costs.
Thank you.
Not about that.
Now we'll move on and talk about cocoa, and the stories have been captured differently by. Yes, thank you. The stories have been captured by Daily Guide and then the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Daily Guide says cocoa board blows millions, and the Ghanaian Times says Parliament approved billion cocoa purchases. So I'll start with the Ghanaian Times, and yesterday Parliament says that it has given approval to the Ghana Cocoa Board to borrow an amount of up to $2 billion to finance cocoa purchases and other related product activities for the 2016-2017 crop season. Now, Cocoa Board has targeted to purchase an estimated 900,000 metric tons, and I know the government target is actually 1.5 million tons. And it goes on and on and on and on. So I'll just move on and look at the dimension that the Daily Guide also took to that story. And it says that the New Patriotic Party, a member of Parliament for Kwadaso and ranking member of the Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee, Dr. Owusu Efriye Akoto, has questioned why Ghana Cocoa Board could spend so much on just fertilizer, pesticides and rehabilitation of cocoa farms, which together is almost twice the amount of 483.3 million budgeted for the whole of the Food and Agriculture Ministry. And they also questioned Dr. Stephen Opuni for how he's managing the cocoa sector. They say he's done a very bad job. Let me pick your thoughts on it. 2 billion cocoa sector, should that be excitement?
Well, the tragedy is what the assumption for borrowing $2 billion is premised upon.
Okay.
It is premised upon FOB prices of cocoa selling at 3,100. And if Ghana is able to gather a total of 900,000 metric tons,
yeah.
The assumption is that if we sell all those in the open market, Ghana will make $2.8 billion.
Sure.
So borrowing $2 billion for this syndication, the cost benefit justifies that we go ahead and borrow it.
Yeah.
That is the premise.
Sure.
Now, why did I throw the word tragedy in? The tragedy is Ghanaians or Africans have no contribution when it comes to determining the price of cocoa in the international market.
I agree.
Secondly, the international market sells and denominates the price of cocoa in US dollars, of which our currency is fighting very hard to maintain a certain equilibrium.
Sure.
This is an election year. We all know what happens during election years. Fiscal discipline is thrown out of the window, and the cedi, if it is lucky, may end at 5 cedis to the dollar by the end of the year. And all these things will deteriorate the ability of Cocoa Board to achieve this assumption that this 2 billion is premised upon.
Sure.
Now, the Honorable Minister made certain assertions for which the Speaker has requested the Minister of Finance and the Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board to come in and clarify. For example, almost 170,000 US dollars was spent on legal fees. Now, if you want to borrow, I'm into investment banking, and this is a straightforward purchase. Why do you need to pay a whopping 170,000 US dollars for legal fees? And all these are within the 2 billion that we are borrowing.
Sure.
Hotel expenses just to sign the signing ceremony was 20,000 US dollars.
Okay.
Now, what is happening to the mindset of the powers that be?
Sure.
If I was the president, I doubt very much if the hierarchy of Cocoa Board would still be at post if these revelations came to my attention. Okay. And perhaps it is the same attitude that we have that contributes in political parties thinking that they can get away with murder, ignore the EC, ignore the constitution of the land, ignore the mandate of the EC, and not file their tax returns at the stipulated time. Cocoa roads, it is not within the preamble of Cocoa Board to be constructing roads. If they are in the rural areas, it is within the preamble of feeder roads to do that. So if Cocoa Board wants to contribute any money, they should really be contracting feeder roads, but not engaging contractors and party connections and party hierarchy within the ruling government to be doing cocoa roads. Now, this has become almost like they are doing roads now, with the assumption that, well, if the institutions that are charged to do this will not or cannot do it, Cocoa Board, I'm going to do this to facilitate the transportation of cocoa so that I can meet my mandate. But it is not within the mandate of Cocoa Board to be borrowing funds and doing it for non-revenue generating activities as in road construction, scholarships for students, renting hotels, paying legal fees, and other expenses that really do not generate revenue.
Okay.
So if you're going to borrow 2 billion,
quick follow-up. Okay, finish.
If you're going to borrow 2 billion, and right from the top, almost about 100 to 150 million is going into non-revenue generating activities, you are handicapped. Last year, Ghana was able to produce less than 700,000 metric tons.
Yes. And the target was 800,000.
And so, why are we now assuming that this year, with all the challenges of Galamsey, cocoa farms being destroyed, with all the challenges of the weather, with fertilizers which are supposed to be free being siphoned off and sold to party affiliates, with farmers getting no incentives to increase their crop production, with no budget for extension farmers within the 2016 budget, how do we think that we are going to increase cocoa production by an additional 200,000 metric tons? It's just not going to happen.
Okay, Nana, just a quick one. So would you rather this loan was not contracted, or how else would you want this to apply?
There, in procurement, there's something called value for money.
For money, absolutely.
And there is no value for money within this assumption. You are not going to meet your target for 900,000 metric tons. That plus the fact that you are assuming that you are going to be selling at $3,100 in the market. Those two factors does not support your 2 billion. I would rather government looked at it from a conservative point of view, that we made 700, let's be conservative, let's assume that we are going to get a total of 600,000 metric tons from the marketplace. And if that is the assumption, you don't need 2 billion. You don't need 2 billion, because if you are assuming that you are going to buy 600,000, if you are assuming that you are going to sell conservatively at maybe 2,500, then at most you need about 1.3 billion US dollars. And also trim down the expenditure, which is choking Ghanaians.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Nana. All right, Doc, for you as well. Nana doesn't see any lights because of how, especially in the early stages, the monies have applied. And I know a lot of people shouted when the 20,000 for signing alone, came up. You as well. Okay, maybe for cocoa farmers, when they hear this, they will be excited because they need it.
Yeah, and let me also, maybe I will bring some positive light into this.
Going.
You see, for farmers, I think one of the reasons why farmers usually will not sell cocoa to the government is maybe delay in payment and smuggling it out to our neighboring countries. So with this money available, I believe that, it means that Cocoa Board should be able to meet their obligations.
I like the should.
That is it. They should be able to meet their obligations. And what I'll say is that yes, one of the challenges that is facing our small farmers or our small businesses is selling to big players, and yet they are not able to fulfill their part by paying them on time. So I believe with this money being made available, if they are able to raise it, I believe it's a number of banks coming together. If they are able to raise it, meaning that they should be able to pay farmers on time, and that will allow the farmers to bring their produce to them, and they should be able to raise the metric tons that they are expected to raise.
Okay.
Let me also say that yes, having the money available is one thing, then having the leadership in place, having the expertise as the financial gurus to ensure that the money is used judiciously. I'm not happy to hear money being spent on hotel bills, money being spent on signing. I think they are not the priorities. So if we get our priorities right,
but some protocols must be met, right?
Yes, but then sometimes maybe I don't know whether these figures are inflated or not. But Nana has a bit of where some of these monies are going into. I don't have that. But all that I know is that once you are credit worthy, you can pay your partners on time, then it gives you a good image. The farmers will always want to come back to you. And this is going to solve a lot of problems in terms of smuggling cocoa out of this country, and the policing, how much do we spend to prevent these people from doing that.
Sure.
We have to put security in place. All this costs us money. So that is why, for me, raising this money is good. But then, how it is being used is another thing, which I cannot guarantee you here. They should just use it wisely so that our farmers will be happy to do business with
All
them.
right. Prof, even before you come in, just a quick, something just came to mind about, there's a hotel in Accra here. To use their facility, you pay $15,000. So yeah, so 20,000 signed in, and now it sounds like, no, to just use their facility, TVT wanted to use their facility, so there's $15,000 just to go there. So maybe they wanted to present a certain front that we're a serious country, so the
Serious
Are
country.
they not alternatives? Are they probably, if you even go to Cocoa Boy, they may have better facilities than that hotel.
Okay.
Yes. Or the
This
Ghana embassy.
country.
The Ghana embassy
Yes.
in the country
In the
that we
country
signed.
that they are signing. So a lot of waste is going on in this country.
Okay.
So you can talk about it.
All right, Pro, for you as well. Pro, I want to believe that there will be some light in here where, you know, farmers themselves will feel like, yes, we need the cocoa. And I think the government even targeted some 60 million seedlings to be distributing some 60 million cocoa seedlings to the farmers. And to hear this will mean that they are on track. Prof.
You know,
Yes.
the issues concerning loans, we have a government I can describe as a loan contracting government. if almost everything loan, from housing to cocoa purchasing. Loan. Some defaulted, some went through, some we had problems with even the stakeholders that are involved.
Sure.
But then at the same time, blowing the resources of this country to shall I call it the major feature of our country. Okay. So when you begin to see these things, how do you borrow money for an institution which has defaulted so heavily? An institution who has expanded their mandate from stealing pages from feeder roads mandate to Cocoa Board mandates. And then the claim is also not right. We want to be able to strengthen our institutions. Okay. We want the institutions to be very strong and be able to deliver. If an institution is not delivering, get rid of the leadership. Get proactive leaders to do the job.
Is that what you think is happening at Cocoa?
No, but Cocoa Board doesn't do roads. At least when those days when I was
save your thoughts out.
When I was working closely with Ministry of Finance, Cocoa Board doesn't do roads. It's the rural. And if it is the highways, it's roads and highways. They handle those things. When they deliver, it becomes the responsibility of the metro, municipal, or district assemblies, and they take it from there. So look at the waste. We are bleeding Ghana. When a country loses too much blood, it dies. And see how much we paid for legal fees. In fact, do we even have a breakdown of how this 2 billion are going to be used? And what surveillance are we going to put in place to ensure that the money is used for the purpose for which it was contracted? You know, the reason why some institutions, they want to flirt around with construction, with road building, and so on. We all know the game. When you go into road building, you are into capital budgeting. The returns will not come today. It's going to be over a certain period.
That's why the figures are always high.
But they do procurement. And the locus classicus of corruption is procurement. They can overprice the delivery of the facility. So everybody is looking, or every institution is looking, how can I swerve and subtly achieve where I have not sown all the fruits of other people's labor. We got to get on board. Last, when we did the paper review, I said that this showing result type of orientation is killing Ghana. if I'm in government and I do things which will destroy the fiscal space of Ghana, so that tomorrow you cannot have any other way. You have spent so much that you have overheat the threshold. You don't have any money. When they want you to go to the bond market, you are going to be in trouble because the credibility, the credit rating of your country will be high. Which country will go for a loan, the face value of a bond at 10.75? Can't we see that a story is being told us that we are a very risky country to do business with? If you look at the releases, the 2014 release on the World Economic Forum, Ghana's pages, you will see that Ghana, we have very serious problems. And the first one is financial. Cost and access to.
Okay.
We don't have the quantum of credit we need, and the cost of borrowing is just so heinous. We have private sector to develop, and interest rates are killing them.
Okay.
Government too is pre-committing the future fiscal space to now to show result that we are doing. We are doing. So you convince people to vote for you. Let's remove this dilly-dallying and get to business of economic development.
Okay.
I don't think that the 2 billion
Yeah.
loan is going to be put to good use.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
All right. So it should not be contracted as well. I think
If it has to be contracted,
Nana makes the point that looking at the fundamentals, for instance, that cocoa and gold prices have actually plummeted. He thinks that if maybe 1.3 billion would have been ideal and a realistic target to set for the market.
For 60K.
Yes, yeah, for 600 thereabout, 1,000 metric tons thereabout. Do you share that view, or you think that we should just focus on something else?
No, I share that view very well. When you are projecting purchases and sales, we work out some scenario and we come out with the plausible ones. There are other extraneous items being stolen into this buying and selling of cocoa from the farmers and so on and so forth. You know, what are we doing now? Why do we expect to reach 900,000
Impossible.
metric tons? What are the bases? Where is the difference going to come from?
Okay.
Roughly between 200,000 and 300,000.
Okay.
When we are denying these people, the price we give them is lower than what they can get smuggling these goods. That is the price plus the risk they take. It is far higher than selling it to Ghana.
Okay.
Of course, then you have to cut your coat according to your size. Let us get loan, we use it, we get returns, we are able to liquidate the loan. Why do you borrow? When we borrow, we got to pay. You know, if it is a private business, they work out what are we buying and what are we going to sell, what will be the difference, and so on and so forth, and the timing. Then, of course, you are thinking about the servicing and then eventually amortizing the loan.
Okay.
What are we doing? We are taking Ghana for a ride.
Can I just add something quickly to what Paul said?
Yes, quick one, and then we'll have to move on now, please.
The saddest
in a minute
aspect is the position of the IMF. For me, the worst thing that happened to Africa is the IMF. Ghana borrows $1 billion from the IMF, of which the IMF is going to be giving us 333 million a year over the next 3 years.
Sure.
And look at the price we have to pay. For the first time in our history, pensioners, with the little that they get, the very little that they get after all these years of struggle,
it's not influence.
when they get their pension, is going to be taxed at 15%. Winnings from Lotto for the first time, 5%. I just took the flight from Kumasi to Accra. Starboy is now charging 313 Ghana cedis, a price that was about 140 last year. It's gone up more than 100%
Even up to
because of
February.
VAT killer taxes and the price of fuel, which is
like
sold to them.
Killer tax.
So at the end of the day, if you want to invigorate your economy, the US, the United Kingdom, these are pacemakers. Their taxes are below 1% in terms of interest. Ghana, we feel that the only way we can create invigoration within the private sector is to tax, 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 and tax. The Minister of Finance is going to he's going to issue the next Eurobond in August. And what he wants to use the bond for is to pay our maturing bond, which we issued in 2007. Now, if the bond is due October of 2017, why do you need to issue a bond of 1 billion in 2016, somewhere in August, so that what you're going to give the money to UBA or another bank to save for you and get interest on it? I'm trying to understand the rationale.
Okay.
And who borrows to pay a maturing debt? And you think these international investors who are going to lend the money to you, who know that you cannot afford to default on your October 2017 payment, they are not aware that irrespective of the interest they give you, you will still borrow.
Okay.
And I think that is why the finance minister, in his wisdom, when Parliament requested that he should indicate a maximum cap on the interest,
thank you,
he still refused that.
Okay. Right.
So for me, it is a case of gross financial indiscipline suitably prompted by the IMF. 700 million US dollars could have been saved, which is more than double how much we get from the IMF, with all the painful prescriptions that they've given us.
That comes with it. All right. Thank
so
you.
if we had saved 700 million, would we have needed to go to the IMF? No. So for the IMF to be very quiet about some of these gross misapplications of financial resources and just keep on tapping the finance minister to introduce taxes tells you the double standards and the fact that we are better off getting rid and booting out the IMF than entertaining
Can that ever
them.
happen? I'm just wondering when we have
an able president who takes Ghana first.
It's something that's happened.
Who borrows from who allows himself to be subjected to this painful shock of taxation for $300 million a year?
Thank you. But just a quick, you've introduced something else. But I mean,
if we borrowed $100 million from the IMF, $100 billion from the IMF, they could come to my house every day and throw away my belongings. That is worth it. $300 million a year. Look at the plethora of taxes that we've been saddled with. Thank you, Nana.
Your point is well made. Your point is well made. But just a quick one on. I mean, he makes the point about if we can win them, and a lot of people actually believe if we win ourselves off the IMF. But realistically, can't that ever happen? Do you see that ever happening?
An able president, any able president will be able to do that. Any able president.
Well, okay. Are we likely to get that in the next 20 years, Ghana? No, seriously, Nana, answer the question.
We've gone out back. So I don't know where we are. We need to take a. We need to decide. We need to take a decision. But no, maybe it's tough. That is why. Even as you talk about how the money, what we are losing.
Yes.
Right now, employment is a serious issue.
It's frozen. IMF.
Nobody is recruited because of this conditionality. Yes. But earlier on, about I wanted to take you to the Cocoa Board issue about they going into roots.
Sure.
What we need to also.
Can I ask you to save your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm always, maybe, I don't know why, on a positive note this morning.
No, but
to be spirited. In contemporary times, every institution, whether private, public, want to have some kind of what we call social responsibility.
Okay.
But, and it's now a kind of strategy.
Okay.
Whether those in public sector or private sector, you want to say that you have done something to community beyond your mandate, what you are expected to do. Okay. So I don't know to what extent, whether, and every institution doing corporate social responsibility will have their priority areas, whether education, health, the road sector. I know the road sector is a sector that most private-oriented institutions might not like to go in because, as Prof said, it's a highly capital, requirement area whereby so a lot of these firms, profit-oriented institutions, will shy away from that. So I believe if Kokobo is doing some roads, probably they will not be major, and probably is to target where it can help them to facilitate the transport of their cocoa from the hinterlands. I believe that's what they will be targeting. But as I said, I don't know the details. Okay. I don't know what their CSR programs are. And what I know is that in contemporary time, every institution wants to be seen to be involved in one
But your
form
corporate social responsibility cannot be bigger than your budget.
That's what I'm saying. No. It shouldn't. Yeah. It should be negligible.
Sure, negligible.
You shouldn't feel it at all.
That should be like from the
shouldn't feel it at all.
Exactly.
But you see, for that one, when you go, it shouldn't at all. It shouldn't at all.
Okay. I'm sorry I had to bring that up. Yes, but it's important that yes, Prof. I know you want to have a bite on whether we can actually wean ourselves off the IMF, and so Prof, go ahead.
Yes, we can.
We can?
Yes.
When? How? With all that we owe?
Well, you see, that is the burden we have. When you owe people, you are at their mercy. It's a bad marriage. Yes, it's like you are exposed and you become very vulnerable. You see, they dictate what they want. I remember, if my memory served me right, Malaysia once walked out the World Bank and the IMF. They said, get the hell out of our back. Okay. And they sat on their own vision. And they're still on the road. It's not roses, but hey, it's better. Okay. So what do we want to do? I don't see how we are borrowing to service debt and amortize debt. I don't know. It doesn't work. You can't. These people are very smart. It will boil down to our interest rate. High risk, high return. Having said that, the most dangerous thing, and these political parties really have to come to grips with, is that the policy space of Ghana has been stolen.
Okay.
We do not have our own grown policies. People say, oh, we have this one, we have that, we have a shared groove, and so on and so on. Hey, we have been reading policy documents long before some of these policies were born yesterday.
Okay.
We have not come to the grips with Ghanaian grown policies. Why? Because we are indebted to these people, and then we have unfortunately sold our right, our policy right, our decision to do this, that. Okay. That is why IMF is very strong in our country. If we get a leader, you see, even when we talk about ruling Ghana, the NDC and the NDC tradition has ruled Ghana for how many years? It's so long. And if what you are looking after is over a longer period, some guy also came to the house and looked after that same child for 8 years, and you are still on the road. Why do you go on and lay blame on others? You see, the first thing we require is what is the vision of Ghana? And then we hold the political parties responsible for trying to meet the vision of the people of Ghana.
Okay.
Instead of this one comes with his manifesto, that one comes with the manifesto, and so on, so that they can dodge under manifesto right, and sacrifice the future of Ghana on that altar. We should hold them responsible. How are you achieving the vision that Ghanaians have? And then get rid of these external.
All right. Thank you very, very much. And yes, so we've come to the end.
Tomorrow is 3rd June.
Yes. The victims. Yes.
The AMA mayor is saying that
he's
gotten rid of the floods.
It's actually like in the newspapers.
Dumsor also has been gotten rid of.
Yes.
It appears that these days the tenor is to say that I so and so solved all of Ghana's problems.
Because
Ghana's-
because you will blame them for the problems. So
No.
why can't they take
But
the
they-
I'm not going to blame them. Our flood is a factor of our attitude. Ghanaians,
Discipline.
we as a people, we are filthy. We are very, very filthy people.
Okay. All right.
We defecate into black bags and throw it into gutters.
When it's raining.
When it's raining, we throw all our garbage into choke drains. We sweep the front of our house, pack it up, and burn
Wait
it,
till when it
causing
is raining.
respiratory diseases
Unfortunately,
to
I'll have to
children and what
rudely
have
cut
you.
you, Nana.
So
because-
I think the AMM mayor should come back to us again.
Again on
He
that, yeah.
cannot get rid of the floods in,
No, but
in
the,
Accra.
the
about
floods still
Atuguba?
exist. Atuguba, about the lawyers. See, I know, but no, it's Prof. It's just 1 hour. It's just 1 hour, and we've exhausted it
You
already.
may have to
Atuguba
rethink the
blasts
time period.
lawyers over ethical breaches. It was actually our fourth story for the morning, but we're able to do just only 3, I think. Yes. So let me say a very big thank you to you, Nana Fedua Ajiman Pambo, Executive Director, InvestPro Limited. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Hope to see you soon. And Professor Cletus Dodonu, Policy Analyst and Chairman of Claydod Enterprise. Prof, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us, and see you soon. And Dr. Mahmoud Abdullahi Mahmoud, Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. Doc, good morning to you as well, and hope
morning.
to see you
Thank
soon.
you.
All right then. So New Day continues.